Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Let's start with the good name of God and we will continue with our today's topic, which is controls. One of the most important topics with respect to exam. It's not difficult, but you have to develop few skills and understanding so as to get a better grip on these concepts. And there are a number of questions from this area in the exam. Can anybody tell me, before we move on to the discussion, what is a control? I just want to have an idea. Just tell me what is in your mind before we move on to the topic.
Controls are actions that the organization takes to mitigate the risks or to control the risks.
Okay. Yes, anyone else?
Yeah.
So, what is your idea about control? Can you please tell me anything which you have in your mind? I just want to have an idea of what is the background of the audience and how should I take it.
The controls kind of actions taken by management or board to manage the risk.
Okay, right. Hassan, what is your concept about control?
Actions steps taken by the management, by the Internal Audit department to reduce the risk in the organization.
Okay, right. Okay, so all of you almost have the similar idea that it is step taken by the management and the board to reduce the risks, mitigate risks and all that stuff. Okay, it's fine. I want to ask one question before I proceed. Can a control guarantee anything or it can provide absolute assurance? Is it so?
No.
Yes, Monica, what do you think?
I believe it's the controls not. They provide only reasonable assurance. I don't think it's absolute assurance.
Okay, great. At least all of you have idea about absolute assurance and reasonable assurance. Great. So this is one of the most important concepts with respect to exam, that whatever the policies and procedures and actions are taken by the management, they can never guarantee or provide absolute assurance with respect to achievement of objectives, and that they will eliminate the risk. Okay, elimination of the risk is no point that the controls will eliminate the risk. Okay, there is no such concept. Benefits of internal controls include: the first benefit is compliance with laws and regulations, policies and procedures, etc. Second one is try to prevent losses, safeguarding of assets. Assets include corporate assets, IT assets, all that stuff, everything related to organization. Support reliable financial reporting and information. And last but not the least, try to reach profitability targets, which are normally the objectives and goals of an organization. So these are some of the benefits of controls. And as we have seen, that controls never provide absolute assurance. Okay, now let's move to the slide. Control means any action taken by the management, the board and other parties to manage risk and increase the likelihood that established objectives and goals will be achieved. Should I remind you that we studied first line of defense, second and third line of defense? That is also relevant in this discussion because the action is taken by the management, the board and other parties. Other parties include second line of defense as we discussed and third line of defense, who are auditors. So you have to bring that picture in your mind that all of those parties in their related roles are responsible for the action that will mitigate the risk or manage the risk and will increase the likelihood that established goals and objectives will be achieved. Okay. Most important element of control is control environment. It relates to the attitudes and actions of the board and the management regarding the importance of control, provides discipline and structure for achievement of primary objectives of the system of internal control. And the control environment includes several elements which are integrity and ethical values, management's philosophy and operating style, organization structure, assignment of authority and responsibility, human resource policies and procedures, and competency of personnel. All of these elements make up the control environment, and thus all together they provide a discipline and structure for the achievement of primary objectives of system of control. Okay, the next point is internal control. Internal control is ongoing process effected by people at all organizational levels. This you have to keep in mind. Management and the board receive reasonable, not absolute assurance, transcends policy and is geared towards achieving organizational objective, flexible and adaptable to organization's structure. This is very important, that the control should be a dynamic control. If there is a change in the procedure in any part of the process or the organization structure, the internal control should be adjusted accordingly. Can I ask one question from you guys? Why the internal control cannot provide absolute assurance?
Because there are inherent.
No, this is not the correct answer, sorry to say. Okay, I will
To management override.
Yes, this is one of the point. Correct. Okay, I will expand on this. Please keep in mind that there are some limitations, inherent limitations, which we discussed in the first unit also when we were discussing the absolute assurance concept, and that video is also on YouTube, by the way. Inherent limitations include human errors, or you can say faulty judgment. Second thing is management override of controls. It simply means that management is not following policies and procedures. Okay, collusion of employees, and last but not the least, cost of implementing the control increases than the benefit. Okay, these are inherent limitations of the internal control. That's why any control cannot provide absolute assurance because of these reasons. This is also the exam alert. The first thing is management and the board and other parties all are collectively responsible for the controls. This is the first exam alert. Then control environment and its elements were the second exam alert. Third exam alert is this, that controls cannot provide guarantee or absolute assurance that the organizations or the process will achieve the desired objectives, and the risks will be eliminated. And why the internal control cannot provide absolute assurance, this is fourth point. And fifth exam alert is internal control should be adjustable. Okay, so these are 5 elements which you have to keep in mind. Got it? Do you have any question related to this area, or should I move on? Okay, the next slide is what is the control process. The control process includes 5 steps. First one is establishing a standard. Establishing a standard, or standards mean criteria. There should be something against which the management can evaluate things based on that criteria. If there is no criteria, if there is no standard, the process cannot be evaluated. It is not measurable. Okay. The second thing is measuring performance against the standards. Definitely, when there will be criteria, we will measure what is the performance against that criteria, which we have set earlier. Management is responsible for defining and developing this criteria or standard. Please keep in mind. But if there is no criteria with respect to exam, you have to keep in mind, then the internal audit department can act as a consultant and help management to develop this criteria. This you have to keep in mind. And in this scenario, his independence and objectivity will not be impaired. New guys, Monica and Hassan, I will give you an idea about objectivity and independence quickly, so that you can also be with me while I am discussing all these things. Independence is related to organization or the function. Here it means internal audit activity or internal audit department. Okay, and objectivity is related to the individual performing internal audit activity. It is related to them. It is related to their state of mind. Okay, what is the example of this? For example, can a CFO influence the internal audit department and their decision? If yes, their independence is threatened. Means the internal audit department is not free to work. Okay, this is independence. Individual state of mind or individual objectivity is related to state of mind or biased attitude. Okay, they are not objective. Objectivity here means neutral. So while conducting the internal audit function and internal audit activity, every individual should be neutral. He should be objective and neutral while conducting the work. Okay, so I hope you have got the idea of independence and objectivity. Yes, can you please tell me, Monica and Hassan, did you got the idea?
Yes.
Okay, good. This is also important with respect to exam. That's why I explained in detail. Okay, let's move on to the original topic. establish standards, okay, measuring performance against standards, examining and analyzing deviations. Here the reason is very important, reason or cause. What is the reason or cause that resulted into deviations, okay? And here root cause analysis becomes very important, and normally it is said that 5 whys take you to the original reason. For example, why this has happened, the next why will ask why that happened, the next why will ask this why this happened, and usually at the 5th why or 4th why you will get to know that this was the reason. And this technique, by the way, is very important and critical while you are developing the recommendations for an audit report. Although we are discussing control process and this is management's responsibility, please keep in mind, since topic came about the deviations and root cause analysis, that's why I explained that with respect to audit, with respect to our job, usually 5 whys take original reason of the happening of that matter or observation, and 5 whys make your recommendations worthwhile. It adds value to your recommendation, and ultimately it will add value to the operation and organization, because you have given the right and correct recommendation with respect to the organization and that process, okay? But you have to keep in mind that here we are discussing step number 3 as a part of management process, control process, which is management responsibility, and the management should also do this so as to correct their problem. So this root cause analysis is equally important and applicable to management and to internal audit department or function. The next step is taking corrective action. Based on the identification of what went wrong, the management has to take the corrective action. At all times you have to keep in mind that control process is management's responsibility. So management is responsible to take corrective action. And the last point is lessons learned. When the management performs root cause analysis, they came to know that these were the causes, or these was the actual cause of this happening. So they have to take the corrective action and try to improve the process and change the standard so that it gets improvement, and next time at least this problem does not happen. So this is reappraising the standards based on experience. This is actually the feedback. The management is giving feedback to the control process so as to keep it effective. Now we are moving to different controls type. The first control type is entity level controls, process level controls, second type, and the third one is transaction level controls. So the entity level controls, as the name is implying, related to governance and management oversight controls, and these apply to entire organization, and they try to mitigate risks throughout the entire organization to ensure that organizational objectives are achieved. The exam alert here is that the entity level controls try to ensure that organizational objectives will be achieved, while the process level objectives are achieved, and transaction level controls ensure that transactions objectives are achieved. Okay, give it a thought for 1 minute and read all these, and I will ask examples of these entity level controls, process level controls, and transaction level controls. Okay, I am giving you 2 minutes and I will ask examples of each of these controls. Company's risk assessment process. Another example is controls related to control environment, controls over shared services departments or shared services environments, code of ethics, fraud prevention, detection and investigation programs, HR hiring policies and procedures, variance analysis, IT general controls. These all are entity level controls. Okay, now let's move on to process level controls. Yes, any example of process level control was the exam alert. That's it for today.